Hello everyone and welcome to Sesujin Drama! Today we're going to be talking about Rip and Spag getting fired from Tekken World Tour commentary. Now, to start off, I gotta say that Michael Murray, Harada, Nakatsu, they are all dumb, stupid, ignorant pieces of... What's that? What the... Oh, no. What number are you? 7. You? 527?
Makes sense.
What do you mean it makes sense? What are you doing here?
Oh, me? Here to fix the timeline.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do not want to be a drama channel. I am not here to talk about drama, to talk about things that people say on Twitter, start up a shitstorm, do anything to cause people to get angry, upset, or just generally yell at people, especially when they don't necessarily deserve it. And so, when it comes to videos like these, I don't want to start drama. I don't want to be one of those FGC content creators that goes on Twitter, reads a bunch of replies by people, starts talking about every little thing I can to generate views. I want this to be a discussion. I think that's something that separates these videos from a lot of videos talking about drama, is just trying to sit down and discuss with each other what's going on, try to be constructive, and not start going on Twitter and dooming about stuff. And I want to talk about that today with Rip and Spag. And to start off, I don't want to talk too much about why exactly they're fired, because we don't know. Yes, we can make an inference, because the same thing happened with Capcom and Sejam, and we very clearly know what happened there. But a lot of the time, the truth isn't as black and white as what's on the surface and what's made public. There could be things going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. It's not just necessarily they talk bad about the game and then they're gone. Although there has been implications in the past that that's kind of how it works. At the end of the day, we don't know. So what I want to talk about today is one of the symptoms of this, of why this is happening. Communication, and just how out of touch Tekken is with not just the community, but the rest of online media. When it comes to communication, this isn't the first time that we've seen this kind of thing from Bandai Namco, where something that we care about, something involves the community, blown up, don't talk about it, go radio silent. Bandai Namco has always had a major problem with communication. And it's not just Tekken. It includes Soul Calibur as well. I remember the 2B reveal for Soul Calibur 6. Do you want to know how 2B was revealed? Because chances are you don't. 2B, of course, in Soul Calibur is like Soul Calibur's equivalent of Tifa. The DLC character that everyone wanted, everyone was raving about, was going to draw in scores of new casual players. And Soul Calibur got 2B. Although, funny enough, 2B was originally supposed to be in Tekken, and then they got Noctis and put 2B in Soul Calibur instead. But we got her. But the way that she was announced was less than conventional. Because you see, 2B's announcement, again, the most anticipated guest character in any fighting game up until this point, wasn't announced at a major tournament. Not only that, the trailer wasn't put on YouTube. It wasn't streamed on Twitch. It wasn't streamed on YouTube. Instead, 2B's reveal was done through a live stream with a cell phone. 2B's reveal was streamed from a French Game Award show that was not publicly broadcast on a cell phone streaming service with the cell phone pointed at the screen. That was 2B's reveal. And even past that, 2B's reveal trailer was not uploaded to YouTube for 4 days after this. I want you to just imagine for a second if Tifa was revealed in Tekken 8, and instead of it being at EVO, Combo Breaker, any major tournament, instead of it being streamed on the Tekken Twitch channel, instead of it being uploaded to YouTube, instead it was streamed from a cell phone on a streaming website that nobody has ever heard of, completely unannounced, from a Korean game show. That's almost exactly the equivalent of what happened with 2B. And even outside of Soul Calibur, I could go into more examples. This same thing has happened with Tekken as well. You know, like, I think one of the biggest examples is Bandai Namco EU giving out Season 4 early to select content creators and streamers. And this has a whole nother discussion that we can talk about that, frankly, I just don't think is relevant anymore. But the point is, this wasn't announced to anyone. It wasn't known by anyone. It was done in secret. And it was done in such secrecy that even Bandai Namco in Japan didn't know that this was happening. Harada, Michael Murray, everyone working on Tekken had no idea that Bandai Namco in the EU was doing this. So not only is there this massive breakdown in communication with us, the player base in the community, but even within their own company, they're not communicating with each other. It's a wonder to me when you think about these things, how Bandai Namco is still in business. But then even after Tekken 7, these things still happened. Look at everything leading up to Tekken 8. Even before Tekken 8 was released. Look at the character trailers. Look at the upload frequency on those. They would start uploading character trailers frequently and with some sort of schedule, and then just stop doing it randomly. And then they would do it again and then stop doing it randomly up until around the time of release. They didn't communicate with anything about us, about the game. The release date they kept not telling us for what feels like no reason. And then the game comes out, that's great. And then you have the microtransaction shop. And you have the battle pass. And you have the DMCA takedown notices for people making mods. Mods that just so happen to be the same thing as stuff that was released in the Tekken shop retroactively. They were sending DMCA takedown strikes retroactively to people that were making mods before any of this stuff was announced. And no communication whatsoever on what did or didn't violate DMCA, what they didn't want to see. And then it just stopped. Just all of us, it just stopped, and it's never happened again. Why did that happen? And then you look at Season 1. Start doing balance updates. All of a sudden, no more balance updates. No more balance changes for the rest of the season. Why? If they had communicated the reasoning for this, kind of like what they're doing now with saying that, we screwed up and we're going to try fixing it, then maybe Season 2 would have been perceived a little bit differently. Wasn't. And then you look at, the Season 2 balancing, and that's where we are now. And the Season 2 balancing, of course, goes against what they were trying to communicate with us. More defense. Improve sidestepping. And instead, it's the opposite of that. And this comes from them not being able to interpret what we're saying. Whatever this communication line is that they're doing to be able to determine what we want and what they're trying to convey is broken. And it's not just externally, but externally is a symptom of this. Communication is why the game's in the state that it's in. It's why all of these things are happening. It's part of what's happening probably with Rip and Spag with commentary. Probably not communicating with them. Probably not telling them what they do and don't want to see. They probably have no idea why they were fighting. I'm not going to claim that as fact, but just looking at the track record, that's probably the case. And you know how I know this is the case too? Because they don't even know their own internal policies. Back in the Tekken 8 beta, people were obviously spreading and sharing the crack. And then Michael Murray went on Twitter, said that people were going to get banned for the crack, and then said to read the EULA. Well, I did. I actually did read the EULA after he tweeted this. And there is nothing in the EULA that says that you cannot crack the game. There's nothing in there that says you cannot play the game early. You cannot play the beta version of the game past the beta period. There's nothing in there. And that shows that he didn't read the EULA himself. There's nothing in there that ever said anything in relation to the crack. And not only that, but then when the game came out, I read the EULA again. And the EULA not only didn't say anything about the crack or anything, or about banning people, but it also wasn't updated after the beta. And it still had language in it referring to the Tekken 8 beta in full release. So, this massive breakdown of communication is ever present at Bandai Namco. I don't know if it's just the Tekken team. I don't know if it's Bandai Namco as a whole. I don't know if it's specifically Japan. Obviously, there's a problem with EU based on what we've seen in the past between the Season 4 thing and the leaks and everything like that. But at the end of the day, you know, when you think about all of the issues with Season 2, when you think about the state of the games, and you think about everything that's happened over the past year, this is what it comes back to. And they don't do themselves any real favors to fix that. They don't know how to change any of these issues, even if it is a Bandai Namco thing. They're very out of touch with the market and with us and with how just the online world works and the advertising world works in general. We kind of saw hints of them doing this with Main Man Swee making tutorial videos on their official YouTube channel when the game released. And what did they do with that? Nothing. You compare this to like when Guilty Gear Strive released. Guilty Gear Strive and Arc System Works in general has fantastic ways of communicating with players. Not only does it have the developer's backyard, but then when the game released, and even after the game released, they got people to play the game. They paid content creators, VTubers in particular, to talk about and play the game, and that generated discussion. And there are people I watch, because generally the content I watch isn't in the FGC, who have never talked about fighting games before, who are talking about Guilty Gear Strive, because of how they're communicating with the players and because of the online marketing they're doing. Where do you see that with Tekken? Where do you see Tekken with Season 2 promoting the game by paying streamers or content creators or whoever to play the game? Again, we saw that a little bit when the game released, and there was a lot of talk about the new Tekken, about Tekken 8, and you saw people playing the game, but it's fizzled out. There's nothing to make content and there's nothing to talk about, and Bandai Namco isn't doing anything to improve that. And so when we look at the numbers of the game now, yes, the numbers are down. Yes, it's one of the reasons is because the game's bad, but it's not just that. It's also because Bandai Namco, the Tekken team, isn't promoting the game. They're not doing anything that every mainline online game does. They're not getting content creators to promote it. They're actually going against the content creators, right? The DMCA takedown notices. They're not really promoting any content creators on Twitter or anything. And then again, the thing with Rip and Spag. People who have been dedicated to this game. People who have been making content on this game for years and years and years. Just discarded like trash. And how does that help anyone? That's always been my question. How does this backwards old way of thinking help anyone? If you look at any other online game, when you have like a new season or a new content update or something, you have some sort of cinematic trailer to go with it. Something to get people watching who don't play the game or have been out of the game for a while. You get content creators to play the game. You get mainstream people to talk about the game. This is marketing in 2025. Content creation is a big thing. And instead what they do is the old school way of marketing where game comes out, they make an ad in Times Square, they make an ad for the UFC without even having a release date at just some random point, and then never talk about it again. And so throughout the lifespan of Tekken, because they're not doing these things, the game slowly fades out of people's minds until it's only us that's left to play the game and to think about the game. And so how can we be surprised that the game's not doing so well after Season 2? How can we be surprised if they're making no effort to draw new people into the game? The only thing that they're doing with Season 2 is getting people that are in the FGC or have been taking a break from Tekken until Season 2 to get back into the game. And when Season 2's bad, they immediately leave. How many new people do you see playing Tekken 8 in Season 2? How many casual people do you see playing Tekken 8 now? Like, how much discussion have you heard about it outside of the FGC? None. And this all comes back to the lack of communication and the backwards thinking when it comes to games. And so I could continue to go on about this topic. I could continue to provide examples. But in my mind, this has always been the issue. And for us content creators too, it's also difficult to make content out of a fighting game. A fighting game isn't a sandbox for content like card games are. Like, for example, with Yu-Gi-Oh, you know, there are new sets that are released all the time. There are new cards that were released all the time. There are new cards that we can discuss that can generate more content, more videos, more things to talk about with the community and with your community with whatever content that you make. For Tekken, that doesn't happen. What do we have? What do we have to talk about? Every like 3 months, there'll be a new character that releases. Everyone will jump on reacting to that character trailer and then leave. That's it. Every few months, we might get patch notes that we read. Maybe they mean something, maybe they don't. Maybe there's something to talk about in there. And then that's it. And then we move on to just playing the game in ranked. Doesn't make for good content for people that don't play the game already. It doesn't make for anything that can help you like branch out and show the game to people already outside of the Tekken or the FGC audience. And so that's why we have videos videos talking about Rip and Spag, not Tekken World Tour, non-Tekken World Tour commentary anymore. Instead of anything talking about the game. Instead of talking about the state of the game, the direction the game's going. Anything that we really care about if we play the game. Because this is the source of content that we can produce. This is the source of content that are going to get people like you to click on the video and go, what's going on here? And then that creates a never-ending cycle of no one's looking at the game, something bad happens, people create content about it, generates negativity, nothing's happening with the game, and then the cycle continues until it's interrupted with a new character or something. And so, this is not only the problem I have with just Tekken, the FGC in general, but also with Tekken. It makes me feel kind of stuck when it comes to content creation. I'm sure it makes a lot of people feel stuck when it comes to the game. Playing the game over and over and over again. And I'm sure for people like Rip and Spag, it also makes them feel stuck too. Where's the communication with them? Why aren't they on Tekken World Tour commentary anymore? There's a reason why Rip in his tweet had a question mark afterwards. And this comes back to communication. Why isn't Bandai Namco communicating with anyone properly? Why aren't they able to communicate with any of us properly? But it's not only that as well. It just shows how out of touch they are with the modern age of online media, content creation, gaming in general. Instead of looking at content creators and people like Rip and Spag that have been on this game for well over a decade at this point. Instead, they do one thing wrong, or they do something that they didn't even know about, allegedly, potentially, and then just discard them like trash. There's no value in what they bring in terms of their personality, their value in the community. And it's not just Bandai Namco. This is also what happened with Sejam and Capcom. I don't want to say this is a Japanese way of thinking because I don't know. But logically, that's what it feels like. And so, really, if Tekken 8 wants to get fixed, they need to change these things. They need to change the communication. They need to change how they look at the community. Again, you look at Arc System Works. How do you think Guilty Gear Strive got the popularity that it did? If Bandai Namco isn't able to do that with Tekken, then Tekken has no chance of succeeding. Tekken never had a chance of succeeding. All Tekken appeals to is Tekken players. It's not going to bring new people in. No updates are going to get people interested if no one knows about the game. And that is one of my biggest worries about Tekken 8. Because at this point, with people leaving, with the perception of the game, even if they do fix it, how are they going to communicate that they did?